This next video, I want to chop up some game with you young guys about overlooking your tomorrows. You know, a lot of us when we was young, we had dreams and aspirations. You know, I wanted to be a fireman. Some of us wanted to be basketball players, football players. We had positive dreams before our innocence was taken from us. You know, we wanted to do things. We was looking ahead in life, and then our circumstances, our environment caught up with us. And a lot of us began to lose those dreams when our innocence was interfered with all the complications of the so-called world and all the complications of our environments that we came from. Some of us lost those dreams and aspirations altogether. Some of us was conditioned to overlook our tomorrows and now fall into the traps that was set before us in the environments that we came from. Some of us, if raised right, would have been geniuses. We had intelligence above others. Some of our young girls would have went off to college and got degrees and wouldn't have had multiple children by multiple different men. But we was conditioned to overlook our tomorrows, living within the reality that we was thrust into, born into. We got into selling dope, got out there in the streets. The influence, the pull was strong. A lot of our parents tried their best to deter and keep us away from the streets, but the pull of the streets was strong. Mama worked hours and days and to make sure you got a roof over your head, to make sure you had a hot plate. And you wanted the Jordans, you wanted the big booty girls, you wanted all of those things that was dazzling to the eye. Not having enough wisdom and not old enough to understand the outcome that comes with that. Not understanding how this would have things of this would destroy your life. Not understanding that this would come in and take your innocence away. We fell into those streets at a very young age, selling drugs. Some of us got into the pistols, shooting guns. But some of us had crack addicted parents where we was thrust into the roles at 13 and 14 years old of having to hold down the whole family. Imagine being 14 and you got 4 other siblings that you got to care for. Their lifestyle is predicated on you bringing them money, you feeding them, you making sure bills are paid. Because mama is a day walker, walking up and down the street, either shooting that dope or smoking crack. She's not available. She's not around. And you never had a daddy. You thrust into the role of an adult when you're not ready, developed, or mature to be an adult. So in all your formative years, when you should be in school, getting ready to go to college or learn a trade to develop something that can carry you through your life, you're thrust into the role of the environment that you're in these streets, and you're running around. Now you're caught selling dope, getting into stick-ups, running wild, not even thinking about tomorrow because you living in the moment. You living in the right now because the environment that you come in, that you come from, has placed you in that consciousness that you have to live in the right now. You have mouths to feed. About time you get 20, you done dropped out of school. You can barely read and write. You have nothing but street smarts. You have street smarts because being thrust into that role, and that can happen 2 ways. Because imagine if you're the youngest child, right? Where the mom is on crack and not in the house, and you have the oldest child having to go out in the street and take care of you. You're used to being fed, everybody doing everything for you. You're not being taught how to do things for yourself. So you become vulnerable to these streets, and you will adapt to whatever strong force is around you, whether it's getting high or being in the street with them guns, because now you're not a thinker for yourself. You follow the producers, because that's the way you're being brought up. Some of y'all that understand, you'll understand where I'm going with this. Now, because you overlook your tomorrows, by the time you get 30, because you overlook your tomorrows, by the time you get 30, you have no skill sets. You have nothing that can carry you through your life. You develop no trades. You didn't graduate school. You have nothing. You have nothing. You have no know-how that can help you develop yourself. So you end up going back to the streets because that's all you know. Because you overlooked your tomorrow and got caught up in the trap of the world. And it just keeps pulling you. When some people say, man, how can somebody go to jail and come home and do the same thing over and over again? And then you take and you stop for a minute and you look at this person and you say, well, this person has been doing this since he was 13 years old. He was living in the house watching his mama smoke crack. He never had a daddy. This is the life he knew. He's been in and out of jail his whole life. He's never developed a skill set. He spent years overlooking his tomorrows. And some would say, yeah, well, he had a choice, and maybe so. But if he was never conditioned to know that he had a choice, because at 13, he was only living off of what he knew. And this is what he knew. This was introduced to him. Nobody ever really sat him down and explained to him how he should make his choices and why he had a choice in the first place. He was just living and reacting off his circumstances. So then you go outside and you look at the kids outside, how they bang, bang everywhere, ganging it up. Look at their homes they come from. Look at their backgrounds. Look at the mindset. It took me to go to prison, and a man named Zachary Ricketts told me that you had a choice. And he didn't just tell me, he showed me. He had to sit down like I was a 5-year-old child and show me why I had a choice. I had to be shown to the point I comprehended and understood, because I was living my life based off of my circumstances and the environment that I lived in. My choices that I made was based solely off the environment that I was in. I never looked at another environment or even thought to look to another environment out of the one that I was living in. Because in my mind, that was the world. So when you see these kids gangbanging, selling dope, killing each other, this is the world they live in. This is the world that they know. This is the world that they know. This is why we start Urban Nerds, to try to change the mindset, deaf to the real nigga, deaf to that mindset, try to alter their way of thinking and get their thinking on a new trajectory of something outside of the environment that they're living in. Let them know that there's a greater world outside of the world that you think exists. A lot of these kids have no skill sets. They can't do no plumbing, no carpentry, no nothing. They don't know how to drive trucks. They don't know how to do nothing. Because once you get caught up in that street life, 20 years will go by. And you'll be 35, like, damn. 2 kids, 3 kids. Now you're old to the streets. You can't go back to the streets no more, but you have no skill sets. So now what you do? You have nothing else to fall on. That's the trap. That's the trap, young brother. That's what they want to. You know, when y'all talk about these old heads, man, these old heads is bums. These old heads ain't got nothing. These old heads started off just like you did. Just like you, young brother. Don't get caught in the trap. Listen to the big homie. I'm trying to give you game, man. Stop overlooking your tomorrows and know that you have a choice. Know that you can make better decisions than the environment that you're living in. Think outside of the box. Dream and imagine outside of the box, young brother. I'm going to cut this video short. I got part 2 coming to this. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, and share to the George Make Experience. And make sure y'all hit that like button. Till the next time, I love y'all. Peace.